Here's a great question, right? So how does a lender make the determination of who to lend money and how much money to lend? The way I explain this to a lot of consumers is via the lenses of risk, right? So a lender going to measure the overall risk of lending you money by looking at 5 specific categories, okay? Capacity, collateral, credit, character, cash. In other words, how much money are you putting down? What's your credit score? What type of property are you buying? What's your overall debt structure? And what's the overall character, the overall picture of this particular file, right? So based on that, the lender is going to determine the overall risk of lending you money. Similar to, you asking me or me asking you to borrow money to buy a motorcycle, right? The 2 most obvious questions that you'll probably ask is, okay, number 1, when am I going to get my money back? And number 2, how much of this bike am I buying, right? If I say to you, well, you're lending me 50%, I'm actually bringing 50, you bring the rest. My overall risk or your overall risk is very low, right? And your terms are going to obviously reflect that. If I say you're lending me everything, right, then your risk is very high and your terms are going to reflect that. And so in the same way, a lender is going to measure the overall risk by looking at, okay, how much money are you putting down? What's your credit score? What type of property are you buying? What's the overall debt structure? And what's the overall picture of the character, the overall picture of this particular transaction? So a lot of times people say, well, I have great credit. Excellent. That's one of 5 components that we're going to have to look at when determining the overall risk. And so the lenses by which we approach any type of lending is the lenses of risk: capacity, collateral, credit, character, cash.